You guys can
Good
talk.
shit.
Black people don't say cock. Thank you, Purple Rain. Let me tell you something. Prince didn't fuck anybody who would have said not cock. Prince never used dick. He said other things. Let me put the 7 into the computer. He said it in back then. But yeah, like, it's so, this man is so complicated. Yet, it was very clear to me. After 2001 and hanging out with Larry Graham, he was all about this life. Because I will say this. His ego got the best of him a couple of times because he tried to compete. And he was interested in doing things to compete and keep his name out there and do certain things differently from how he'd been doing it the previous 43 years of his life. But, you know, at the end of the day, he was into that book, man, in a different way than I can understand it. But he was into it.
He was not a rapper.
He was
not a rapper.
He hated rap, though. Like, that's the thing. He was like, fuck these rappers, man. I can do this shit. The Black Album. Bam. Wait a minute, Prince. This is kind of corny. Shut up. What do you think about that, Riddle?
I'm with you on that. Like, I couldn't get into most of the New Power Generation stuff because, like, anytime a rap verse showed up, it was like just kind of like the worst thing. And I kind of felt bad. Like, I was just kind of like, and what was he doing?
Wait a minute, you felt bad for he looked like an old man hanging out with these idiots who ain't cool.
So what was the drummer's name? Because I just kind of in preparing for this pulled up and looked at a bunch of stuff, and I ended up on a picture of the New Power Generation, and I had forgotten. Like, the drummer in the band used to wear the weirdest hat. Like, everything about that group was just so weird and off to me that I passed on most of it. But in a very weird sort of moment, if you ever wondered what happened to the New Power Generation, Tommy Barbarella, the drummer, and the guitar player. Huh?
Tony the rapper. Remember Tony?
No, I don't. Tommy Barbarella, the drummer, and the guitar player all ended up playing for the Jonas Brothers. like Nick Jonas had a side project called Nick Jonas and the Administration, and it was basically the rhythm section from the New Power Generation.
It was called Nick Jonas and the Administration.
I like the Jonas Brothers, first of all. And then second of all, someone said assless chaps and boots aren't weird. Somebody's coonskin cap weird, but it's like...
Yeah, I felt like that was my whole experience. That was my whole Prince experience, like, as a kid and growing up. It was just different. Do you know what I mean? Then it felt like he was being different, like, on purpose to try to find, you know, a sound that was different. So it didn't really feel like it was something he wanted to do. Now, mind you, this is me looking at it from the outside in, right? Like, he was always like the first to have like a new sound or a new tone or a new something. So it felt like he was like hunting for something that would make him, you know, like different than Michael Jackson, different than the traditional pop. And I was like, he's like trying too hard. So it didn't really feel natural until I was able to, you know, take a step back, be a little bit more mature about the stuff and be like, oh, like that's him really trying to express himself.
Well, remember, and that's fair too, because he came in the late 70s and he used to tour with Rick James, right? And so Rick James already had the black male, androgynous, but yet pounding women ass left and right thing going on. That was Rick
rock
James.
And roll, kidnapping people.
Yeah, kidnapping people and rock and rolling. Yeah, so
like how often do you run across androgynous macho? Like it only happens with Rick
I
James.
mean, if you look at like that era, I mean, like Earth, Wind, and Fire, what were they wearing? Like you look at like a
they
lot
were
of
getting it in like that during that time frame.
yeah, during that time frame. I mean, the Isley
They
Brothers, like
getting it in.
everybody, you know, man tying up his shirt, little halter top with some bell bottom.
Yeah.
Like
You see Eddie Murphy Raw? Like he was,
yeah, true.
the licorice leather.
yeah,
Yeah,
that was the thing.
but wait a minute, Eddie Murphy Raw was 85, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was later.
Yeah, that's not the 70s. That's Eddie Murphy seeing them cats, thinking that shit was still cool, and calling them cats. You know, but Prince, he toured with Rick James, and Rick James saw him as a rival because what the time was doing to Prince and the Revolution, Prince was doing to Rick James. He was undercutting them a little bit. They were very impressive, you know.
And also, Alexander O'Neal he and Prince got into it too.
Yeah, Alexander O'Neal at first said it's because he was dark skinned, but it turned out other people like Terry and Jimmy said it's because Alex kept asking about the money, and everyone knew you don't ask Prince about the money. But I do have a trivia real quick. So the Sign of the Times tour. What popular 90s band toured and played in the band as members of the band for Sign of the Times tour, but was fired when Prince crew handed them McDonald's applications and said, "This is where you'll need to be now"? That's how Prince fired.
Oh, dang.
I'll give you a minute. Sheila E. brought them on, by the way.
What did the group give us a clue about what the group ended up being?
Oh boy, I feel like if I give
How long did they stay around?
Boy, if I give you a clue, let's see how I do. They've been mentioned before already tonight.
Oh, it must have been Tony.
Tony, that's correct.
Oh, that's right.
Tony was hired by Sheila E. and they were brought on to Prince's entourage because Prince was doing what Prince did. He started to find new friends, and this is when he was having a falling out with the Revolution. And the Sign of the Times tour became a cobbling of what we started to know as New Power Generation. Guess who didn't do New Power Generation after that tour, though? The Tonys got their ass fired. And
you know
Prince's
what?
bodyguard handed them sheets of paper that said Golden Arches on it, employment application. And they're like, what the fuck is this? And this is a true story. Raphael says it and other people say it. This is where you're going to need to be now that Prince has fired you. And that's how they learn how they got fired.
Yeah.
But you know what?
Raphael.
Thank you, Prince, for firing them because, like, thank God they didn't end up in the New Power Generation. Like, can you imagine?
We would have never heard from them again.
Yeah, like, hey, I wonder what happened to Raphael Sadiq. Oh, he playing with the Jonas Brothers. Like, I am so glad that it went that route.
and that was the end of the New Power Generation. The pimp costumes. Well, it wasn't necessarily pimp costumes when you could play bass guitar. You know, in the 70s, it was a little bit different. I mean, Rick James, they had that whole freaky thing, and they had cocaine. They were all about cocaine.
It was the braid. It was the
braids, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was
and the chest out and the Vaseline chest. And glitter. They had glitter and Vaseline. There's dudes still saying they still getting glitter out 30 years later.
Is that Mickey Free, who Dave Chappelle was talking about?
Yes.
With the eyeliner.
That's so funny though. Those Charlie Murphy stories and what Dave Chappelle was putting out there, that shit ain't far from the truth at all. In fact, the Charlie Murphy story about Prince and the pancakes and the basketball, That's about 95% accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a really good basketball player. Like, he was actually, like, one of his concerts, he was shooting baskets or something. There was like, I've seen footage of him, you know.
Well, you see how that
Prince got a new chick in his band.
What were you laughing at, Ty?
Huh?
What you laughing at, Ty?
It was like Prince got a new chick in his band.
Named Mickey Free.
That bitch fine as hell. Oh shit,
right.
I remember Jesse Johnson and the rest of those cats. Yeah, they all had long power hair. What about the Prince clones though, like Terrence Trent D'Arby, Ready for the World, and there's another one. Those
Come on now.
Prince wannabes.
Now,
Milli Vanilli, they were like a little.
Milli Vanilli wanted to be a lot of things. They didn't want to just be Prince.
Yeah.
They wanted to be a lot
and
of
I think Terrence Trent D'Arby is far more talented than to just write him off as a Prince clone. Like especially, there's a lot going on with that man. Like, he's still recording under a completely different name, but like some of his even later albums are brilliant. Like just really and truly brilliant.
Ty, are you familiar with Terrence Trent D'Arby?
Come on, man.
Hey, man, I'm just asking real quick. You know, wishing well, kiss and tell, all that shit.
Yeah.
Find your name.
Find. You said find your name or sign your name?
Find your name.
Sign your name.
Won't you that be my name? And then you have Prince accolades. You know, you got D'Angelo, you got Bilal,
See?
you got well, Bilal Hardy is alive, and D'Angelo, I have no idea what his cholesterol level is.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like,
Kim Dudley said those were Terrence Trent D'Arby's.
I was gonna say, like,
It's just
like
that's it. And
the
that is
music
it. That is it.
that sticks with you the most is the music that you like started in on. And for me, it wasn't Prince. You know, it was like 112, a little bit of Johnny Gill, you know, some Jodeci.
Yeah.
Jagged Edge, like that was me. You asked me about them, I'm good. I was random.
Yeah, that's our high school
on my 3-disc CD player, you know.
Yeah, that's our golden era of high school shit. Like,
Silk.
I would put I would put a grown Usher in a Prince category. I mean, you know, like a lot of falsetto. You know, there's a lot of sexiness with Usher.
You know what I said about Usher one time?
What'd you say about Usher?
I said
Usher.
I think Usher is probably the only person who doesn't have a bad song. Like, can you name a bad Usher song?
I don't know what's worse, a bad song or an indifferent song. There are a lot of people very indifferent about when it comes to Usher.
I feel that. I was about to say that too. It's like there were some songs after Usher got rid of his mom as his manager. It's like, but he stays around. He's still around. He's still vibing.
It's not unbearable, you know.
The thing about Usher though is that Usher don't play 26 instruments.
No.
And then moonwalk while Cat is jumping over him and shit. And it just, I ain't seen nobody do anything that I've seen Prince do.
Well, his show's on Skates now in Vegas.
Of course, because Vegas is a terrible place.
I really want to go see that.
We gotta talk about what? Prince on skates? Like there is a Prince show on roller skates? Or did I misunderstand?
No, we were talking about Usher. Not
what?
Oh, the Vegas. That's what you're talking about. I thought you were talking about Prince. That's why I was sighing. Like, they put Prince on skates. we do have to come back to these movies, though. These Prince movies. I am of the belief that Under the Cherry Moon is a good bad movie.
Oh yeah, for sure. I enjoy watching it and I laugh every time and I cringe, and it is so entertaining in how bad it is.
Separately, some of the scenes are so bad, like the the restaurant scenes, and just he's like very stoogey. Like his
Yeah, it's like, what are y'all trying to do? Like, yeah, they didn't rewrite the script, and they didn't he just wanted to do some stupid shit. But then he fired the director like 2 weeks into it, and so he put his name on it, Prince. I don't think Prince knew what he was doing, but there's some beautiful shit in the movie.
Also, like, it was black and white, and it's shot beautifully. Like, looking at it, it is visually beautiful. But the script is just, the script and the acting are just like, what happened?
Although, Wrecka Stow is a classic.
Whenever I see it, I laugh. But I'm also in that moment saying, like, man, you could have written a better line.
It was such a bad
Do
joke.
you understand the spelling of Wrecka Stow?
The what?
No, do you understand the
You know what?
spelling of the title?
It's almost midnight. I think I'm gonna have to just call it a night. You know what I mean? I've taken a beating since 9:20. You know what I mean? I hung in there best I could.
So no Wrecka Stow for
No,
you?
no, we're not gonna ask him. Wrecka Stow. I owe you 2 drinks.
You know what? I'm gonna call it a night. I appreciate it. I'm happy to be, up here with y'all. It was nice to meet y'all. Some true Prince fans through and through.
Hey, man, thank you so much. Like, you
over it. He is done.
Hey,
For sure.
for real, like you hung in there, so like you good, man. You good.
I promise a year from now, I'll be 200% better.
Right
You know
on.
what I mean?
You know, listen
All
to
right.
your albums.
For sure.
Hey,
night, y'all.
Sign of the
Audience,
times.
thanks-
Sign of the
thanks for
times.
coming
If
out.
nothing else.
yeah, Sign of the Times is where you go. It's like Miles Davis kind of blue.
Go to that
Hey,
one.
All right.
you know I love you, Ty. Go to sleep.
For sure.
We'll be talking
All right.
later.
Y'all have a good
I'll buy
night.
you a purple shirt.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Good night.
Good night. That's my boy.
He tapped out. He was like, look.
He's like, look, I don't know what y'all talking about. I'm not. With that said, no, we got to talk about these movies real quick. Prince's movies. It felt like to me, this is what I always thought about with Prince. You know, everyone was saying he was of the MTV generation. He was. But I don't think Prince used a music video. I think he was like, fuck it. I'll just create a movie and make those my videos. Because he hardly had videos in the 80s. If it weren't for Purple Rain, or if it weren't for some footage that came from Sign of the Times, like Another Hole in Your Head, I remember seeing that on Night Tracks on TBS. And it was concert footage. Or anything from Sign of the Times, which was basically a dark album if you think about videos. There was nothing that came out of that damn album, video-wise. It didn't come until Under the Cherry Moon, and that's when we got Kiss, where Warner Brothers spent more money for a video for Kiss, and Girls and Boys, where they spliced up the movie to make a video. He was not a video guy in the 80s.
Except Mountains. Well, that wasn't the 80s, though.
Well, yeah, it was the 80s. Mountains
Was that
was
the 80s?
Mountains was the end of Under the Cherry Moon.
He had a little video for Mountains.
Yeah, so Kiss and Mountains, Warner Brothers said, we'll throw you a couple of $100,000.
And Raspberry Beret. Like I remember the video for Raspberry Beret. I hadn't really thought about that, but you're right. Like there aren't a whole lot of Prince videos from that era.
I did love Little Red Corvette. Connectivity.
And that was a damn
about Little Red Corvette.
That was some shit where they just had some keyboards and some lights and like a community theater, and they just recorded that shit in the community. It was like $500 they spent on that shit, which is probably like $10,000 today, but still not a lot of money for a mainstream music video for a mainstream artist. All that 1999 shit was all Cameo videos. Remember Cameo? And Cameo's videos were like, if you saw them doing anything, it all looked like it was a fake concert, but there was nobody there. And they were just lip syncing. And they get the keyboards on a block or some shit, and they just tapping on a keyboard. That's what Prince had going on. Low budget, man. To me. Diamonds and Pearls. That's the 90s, ain't it? Diamonds and Pearls like 91.
That was 91. He had a video for Money Don't Matter, but it didn't have anything to do with the song.
And that's Diamonds and Pearls, and Spike Lee directed it, which means it was cheap because Spike don't
Wait a minute.
spend no money.
There was a video with Prince in it for Money Don't Matter?
No,
No.
What I remember is a black screen with the words on it.
Well, there were words, and there were also like
there were some people
black and white footage of scenes of a black family struggling.
Ooh, okay, I need to go back and watch it again.
You need more Video Soul. They need to be a Video Soul link to YouTube.
Doves Cried. They did have a video.
Right, but that's for the movie. I said if it's not associated with the movie, then hello everybody.
Hi.
Hello, Mr. Disaster Clown. How are you? But yeah, if it wasn't associated with a movie or something that he filmed on a long-term level, he didn't just create videos. Prince, I don't know why. I don't think he was of the MTV generation like everyone else thinks he was. When the Michael Jackson video came out, it was a big deal.
Highly produced. Yeah, I think he just felt like he didn't need them. He would, and he came from a time like he would do Bandstand. He would do like a show. I don't know.
But the 90s was that's where he started to lose his way. Because he didn't have the revolution. His only real albums without Wendy and Lisa's influence that were great. In the latter part, going to the 90s, were I think Sign of the Times. Wendy and Lisa didn't have anything to do with that. What do you say, Riddle? Did they?
I agree. Yeah, I don't think they were on that one either.
Yeah, they weren't on Sign of the Times and Batman.
I'm not positive that Wendy and Lisa, like the Parade, is a stripped down version of the Revolution. And I'm trying to remember if Wendy and Lisa were on that album.
No, Wendy and Lisa were on Sign of the Times.
They were? Okay.
Yeah, they were on Slow Love, Strange Relationship, and Beautiful Night.
Yeah, that's the
push. It's not the whole album, though. Okay.
Yeah. And then
were they on Parade?
I don't know. That part.
Yeah, she got the album right there. I'm pretty sure Wendy and Lisa had nothing to do with Parade. Well, they might have. Wait a minute. There might have been a few songs that were still there.
And I remember, Sheila E. is the drummer on Parade.
Sheila E. was a drummer in Sign of the Times and a drummer on... She was a drummer moving forward up until like the middle part of whatever we know as the Black Album.
I don't think Wendy and Lisa were on. No, you know who was on here was Susanna Melvoin. And Jonathan Melvin played drums on some of the songs there.
So Wendy's brother and sister, but no...
That's crazy. That is crazy.
But no Wendy.
Yeah.
Yeah. This dude has some terrible relationships with people.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, the whole Time fame, he wouldn't let the Time use their name.
Yeah, that was crazy.
I think he wanted the Time to like come back and he owned them.
That was like an Ike Turner move.
But it kind of makes sense though, because he did write all the songs.
He wrote all of the songs.
It was a dick move. Like he could have made that beneficial for everybody. The Time.
Yeah.
I mean, he fired Terry and Jimmy because they were stuck in Atlanta trying to produce the SOS band because there was a snowstorm out of nowhere in Atlanta and they couldn't make a show. And you say you fired. That's unfortunate. Speaking of whatever that fire department. I don't know. I think Prince is just an enigmatic figure, but I do come back to, like I said, and my Shawn says, it's ironic he died in an elevator. his hot song to get us into him, well, in the mainstream, not people who already knew him. Let's Go Crazy was a rocker.
Yep.
You know, When Doves Cry was always on the charts, but Let's Go Crazy was a rocker. And it's this big ass metaphor about the devil and the elevator and going up and down in life. And
we're talking about Prince, Lola.
And he dies in the elevator.
Or Iola.
And he dies in it's Lola. And I hope it's Lola. And then he dies in April. Sometimes it snows in April.
The irony.
And he's still gone. And his sisters will not let us miss him.
You know what? I think about this all the time. That year for me musically hurt so bad. Like, we lost Prince, David Bowie, and Phife Dawg all at the same time, man. I was never right after that. Like, that bothered me.
You know, the Prince and David Bowie analogies are very similar because they both came to a very religious space later in their years. And they were always they were androgynous. Bowie straight up slept with dudes. Prince, we don't have any evidence of that. but Bowie did everything.
Yeah.
But he's fucking David Bowie.
He made some movies too. So.
Yeah, we look at both of those things.
This man, Bowie was so badass, James Brown stole a song from him. Like, man.
Hey, Riddle, which song is that?
So, Bowie did Fame. Yeah. And James Brown had a song just called Hot. And for years, I assumed that James Brown did it and Bowie ripped it off. And then later on, I found out, I heard an interview with Clyde Stubblefield where he said, like, they were sitting in a room and was like, what are we doing? Are we covering this Bowie song? And so, like, they played it, and afterwards, you know, like, they realized he put completely different lyrics on it. He said he was expecting James Brown to do a version of Fame. That's how close it was. And I was like,
very funky, though. Very, very funky.
Oh yeah, it is. And also, I don't know, like, this is getting off topic, but that same album that Fame was on was Luther Vandross was singing backup on that album.
That's amazing.
Is that now Rogers? Is that now Rogers produced album?
I think so, because Nile Rodgers was the one that introduced him to introduced
to blackified and rejuvenated all those British guys. He got Elton John, he got David Bowie. You know, he had something to do with. But what song would Luther have been singing with David? I can't think of that. It was
the album with. Oh God, what was it? It was the album with there was this incredible song. I think it was called Promises. Or I might be thinking of something else. Like, he is in the back. He's background singing on that album, and also during that time, Bowie took him on tour as a background singer, but let him open on the tour. Like, he believed in Luther Vandross so much, and Vandross said, like, you know, like, he was getting ready to quit playing, and Bowie said, like, no, like, you don't quit, you keep going. In fact, you open up on the tour for me, and that was like the thing that pushed him over the top.
You know, something that's unrelated but related. David Bowie, that's a good actor.
Oh yeah.
Him as Tesla on The Prestige.
That's exactly what I was getting ready to say. Oh my God.
No, actually, it was called. The song was called Fascination, I think.
Thank you, Fascination. Amazing song.
Hey, let's see if I can play that, or if not, I'll get cut off. Let's see if I can play Fascination. Y'all don't have to wait for me. Keep talking. Fascination. Yeah, David Bowie is one of those guys who, a lot of respect. In fact, he was one of those people who would go on interviews on MTV. I remember seeing an interview way back in the early 80s. And he said, why don't you have more black artists playing on your network?
Yeah.
The Brits introduced fucking slavery and racism to America. Now they're like, hey, America, why aren't you like us? That's pretty much what happened. Hey, D. Reese Cup. Hey, cigar sticks and lipstick stains. That's what it says, right?
Yeah.
But you mean this song?
I played this many times in my DJ sets.
That's a long ass intro. It must be the 70s. Only the 70s give you that much intro.
Yeah, my attention will allow that now.
Yeah, David Bowie. There are some parallels to Bowie and Prince. Of course.
His last album, you talk about like Prince's death as a metaphor for his life and his music. If you listen, Bowie's last album was called Black Star, and that opening, like, it damn near brings me to tears every time I hear him about his own death.
Well, these singers, though, they come up with these songs that eventually, I guess a broken clock is right sometime, you know, but it does really feel like Prince expected to live a life unfulfilled. You know, the thing about, like, his whole reputation, you talk about Prince, oh, he's a sex guy, he's this, he's that, he's provocative. He was never aggressive in his lyrics. Was he will say what he could do to you, but that's only if you gave him an audience. It seemed like Prince was always a gentleman.
No, Lady Cab Driver, the little, you know.
Well, Lady Cab Driver, yeah, that's a. But I was about to say 15 minutes to get there.
I Hate You, which I loved off of the Gold Experience.
That's a great album. That's a great
playing it back a couple of days ago and hearing it through the lens of our time and through the lens of Me Too. I was like, like it is when you said like he wasn't aggressive, like there was a point where I was like, man, if he had done this today, like he'd have been ran out of the city.
He's so charming though. He found a way to get away with everything. Did that he wore his ass out on the MTV Music Awards. The FCC is like, what the fuck? Has Prince got his ass out? They were caught off guard. Like, so what are you gonna do with that? Like, this dude was so slick. He never had a Janet Jackson nipple moment. Not in the degree of course he was a dude compared to a woman and her titties are out. But like other than Tipper Gore fucking with him in the 90s, that's the best thing that could have happened to him because he was stale. Prince as a name was stale in the 90s.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think, like, my thing is, like, as soon as he became a Jehovah's Witness, that was when the music got worse.
He was hard to love.
He was extra preachy.
Yeah.
Now, while musicology, it seemed like we celebrated musicology because it's like, all right, you put together some competent songs. These were competent, tame, PG songs. And then the world, if they like you, they can't wait to give you an award for coming back. 3121, right after that, was the better Prince album in that comeback vein. And then he went right back to being too much bullshit Prince.
But musicology, that was actually a good concert, like that tour. That was actually a pretty decent concert. I remember going to that one. It was good.
I heard the musicology tour. I mean, it was a very lucrative tour. I understand it.
It was
he
good.
had hundreds of millions, well, not hundreds, but tens of millions of dollars pocketed into him from that. I would say, if you study Prince, you will see that I think he would get a rhythm of something for one album, and if it's chronologically done, the second album is gonna be the classic. So like Controversy he did first. and he was on a kick, and it's like, oh, 1999 is really that's the album. Diamond and Pearl, that was a kick, and it was like, oh, the Symbol album is really way better. You know what I mean? So yeah. I think Prince had to warm up into what was his good shit. He wasn't like Stevie Wonder where he would write some shit and throw away whole half albums or whatever just so he could have a nice sequence of some feeling. But Prince didn't have an A&R rep either, so that was good and bad for him.
Yeah, even the very start, like For You versus Prince. Like, you know, For You had a couple of songs, but Prince was like, okay, I'm riding on the white horse with my hair. But, you know, like he was ready to go.
Yeah.
In that one.
Hey, you know what album we did not touch on? And talking about Prince being naked on the album cover. Love Sexy? Man, like, I tried every now and then. I break that album out and I try to listen to it. It's got Alphabet Street on it, and I cannot listen to anything.
It's got When Two Are in Love on it.
Mm-hmm.
But
is it?
Okay. Remember, the Love Sexy project was supposed to have been the Black Album, as he fully intended it, or something like that.
Was it?
Like that? That's like the. You know what? You know the last 2 or 3 years in that period of with Prince. To me, that's like the last box when you're moving, and you just throw whatever you can into that fucking box. You find squeezable erasers and plates and pencils and a globe. You just put that shit into the last box just so you can say, I moved out of this fucking apartment. The Love Sexy period, frontwards and backwards, is that last box of Prince with the Warners where he's just throwing shit in there.
He's like, all right, look here.
Yeah.
You wanted 8 songs?
Mm-hmm. Hey, that's exactly what it was. He's like, contractually, you need 8 songs. I got 8 songs for you. Old Friends for Sale. Hey, take that shit. That shit ain't even a finished song. Shut the fuck up, it is. Okay. All right, Prince. I guess you want to get out of this damn contract that bad, but ain't no damn song. You know, that's what his career was. The last really good album of that last box of moving out of Warner Brothers was Come.
Yeah.
The Come album is dirty, it's filthy, it's heavy on the Lindrum and the bass and synthesizers, but it's cohesive, and you can listen to it mostly, at least 75%.
Mostly.
You can listen to at least 75% of it.
Yes.
Well, hey, thank you so much. My phone is about to die. It's been a pleasure. And so good to meet you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And I wish you well. And here's hoping that you hear some great music as we think about this man and what he left with us to enjoy. So I wish you all the best. Thank you. And good night.
Riddle, get out of here.
Good night. Nice meeting you.
Good night, Riddle.
Good meeting you too.
All right.
Kanisha, I know you need to go too.
Yes. So I gotta work tomorrow. From home.
You gotta work from home?
Yeah.
That ain't work.
It is work. It's like meetings, conference calls. It's work.
That's work.
It's work. So.
And the good shit.
We wouldn't have to get up that early.
Here's what's gonna happen. Your boys are gonna listen to some songs that'll come out now that the Prince estate will sell as background music. Mm-hmm. And then they're like, yo, this artist that I love came up with this dope track. And then you're like, that's dance music, sex, romance, or some shit like that. You'll be like, oh, that's Prince. That's what I've been trying to get you to listen to.
I try to point out the samples. Like, they're good for, you know. I'm always like, oh, well, you know, this came from here. This is Anita Baker. This is, so they get it. But yeah, you know, we share music. But now I'm going to sleep.
Auf Wiedersehen.
In my purple room. Guten Abend. I speak German, actually, so.
Ach, du Liebe! Du bist sehr lustig.
All right. Good Abend. Tschüss. Thank you for letting me join. That was fun.